Man of Clutch, MOC, Michael O'Connell, still a Wolfpacker.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's right, $150 win or lose. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Happy Thursday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, we saw on Tuesday that Jaden Taylor had given sort of a formal announcement that he will be returning to the Wolfpack. On Wednesday, we saw the same from Michael O'Connell. He discussed with Inside Pack Sports that he will be exercising his final year of eligibility right here in Raleigh. How significant is this to get confirmation that Michael O'Connell will be back?
It's extremely significant because, as some fans pointed out to me, in today's world, you really never know, right? Like, we wouldn't have expected the MOC decision to go the way it did, but it did. That's just how these things play out. And in today's world, if players perform well enough, it doesn't matter if it's for a game, 10 games, 15 games, they could definitely be leaving for greener pastures. So I want to say sorry to Jaden Taylor and company. I know, again, many people were on me about that one, so I understand. But in all seriousness, MOC coming back is, he's going to be a calming veteran presence. He's going to be the playmaker. And we talked about in the past how long it's been since NC State had a true playmaker at point guard. Well, Michael O'Connell showed that difference, and I believe that his play in the tournaments were a large part of why NC State was allowed to do what it did in the tournaments, because when DJ Horne was not starting due to injury, who stepped in and, again, gave not the same thing as him, something very different that was still needed? Michael O'Connell. So I'm excited to see how he leads this team going into the next season.
He's a postseason hero. Over 50% of the postseason run literally does not happen if not for Michael O'Connell. And we will always remember him as such. And his evolution kind of slowly as the year went on into a floor general was amazing to watch. And I remember around the midpoint of the season, I keep referencing that statistic graphic. I can't remember the source, but I tweeted out the Spark Notes version basically saying good things happen for NC State when Michael O'Connell was on the floor. And that was absolutely personified in the postseason. The guy shot 51% from three in that 9-game stretch. You talk about stepping up and being relevant when your number is called. That's absolutely absurd. And there really was like a calming presence when the ball was in his hands. And you can't put a price tag on that. And so many big moments in the postseason kind of make or break you depending on the poise of players. And Michael O'Connell making big play after big play, big shot after big shot, and controlling the tempo of a game, that cannot be overstated. And obviously when he went down in that Final Four game against Purdue, you instantly felt his void that was left behind. The team kind of sputtered after that, and that just emphasizes how important he is to be in the mix. So it's a humongous deal to get him back. And kind of in the same breath as Jaden Taylor's announcement, we kind of all assume this anyway, and we know that we shouldn't do that, especially this time of the year because the deadline was on Wednesday. But it's nice nonetheless to basically have it in stone and have that confirmation that he will be back in the red and white.
Oh, undoubtedly. And the other thing that you think about is the fact that not only is he a guy who is going to be a playmaker, he is a fifth-year senior, fourth-year senior?
He'll be a fifth-year senior, yes.
Yeah, he's an extremely senior presence, for lack of a better word, right? Like, he's a guy that has been around the block. He's seen it all, done it all. And so at this point in time, with a roster that's going to have a lot of turnover and all that, it's important to bring guys back, because I talk a lot about how Wes Moore has maintained what he has on the women's side. It's because he retains enough of the roster from year to year to have continuity, there is a presence of the culture is what it is, and players come in and adapt to the culture, not the culture adapts to the new players. Michael O'Connell will be instrumental in the new guys that are coming in. Hey, you're a great player. You do what you do. Adapt to the culture, not the other way around, so that we can get back to the Final Four, so that we can return to who NC State has been in the past, and like many people have alluded to before, so that we can continue waking this sleeping giant up.
I remember in the offseason last year, a lot of the conversations were about how important the point guard position would be to last year's squad, and you needed to bring in somebody that could effectively run the offense, create that calming presence, and just be a leader in every sense of the word. And Michael O'Connell was a little bit of a slow burn, but by the end of the year, he checked off all of those boxes. I think the conversation is very similar going into this next season. He will be a vital part to what this team is trying to accomplish. And we're going to need that poise. We're going to need that clutch shot making ability. I think he will see a little bit of an increase of minutes. I think there will be quite a fluctuation of guard play, obviously, with, bringing in 3 to 4 new faces, but he is still going to be a main fixture of the offense and defense as well. I think he gave us a little bit more than maybe we even expected on the defensive end. But this is a big piece to get confirmation that he is returning for next season. He's a hero already. He always will be. But if he can take us back to the postseason again and create more magic this coming season, is there a step above postseason hero? Maybe folk hero?
He would reach build the statue territory. Like, if he could lead this team, and I'm not joking at all, if this team is to win another ACC championship and Michael O'Connell is at the heart of that, he's in build the statue territory. Who else has led this team to not one, but 2 ACC championships? You got to go back to David Thompson territory to think about somebody that's done that for this team. I'm not kidding when I say if this team wins another one and MOC is at the heart of that, you could absolutely see him get one of those statues built because, and by the way, I know some people are saying that I use that term loosely. I am telling you all right now, I mean this from the bottom of my heart and soul. When you think about what warrants that, it's not necessarily a full body of work so much as what your full body of work meant to the institution. Because do I think that he will ever catch a TJ Warren in terms of scoring? No, not even close. Won't be in the ballpark. But you know what TJ Warren did not have? And this is not an affront to him. This is not a disrespect. Winning championships. Affecting winning at a higher level than we've ever seen done. When people say, oh, well, why would you build Dorman statue? If he wins enough to have all of your coaching records, that's it. Same thing for MOC. If he wins enough, even if he does not have the NC State record for assists, for points, for three-pointers made, three-point percentage, steals, any of it, it does not matter if you can look back at his shot as the catalyst. You look back at another run the year afterwards. You look back at NC State going on to become dominant, and it all starting with we can't build a statue for McNeely missing the shot. You can't do that, but you can get one for the guy who hit the three and then who went on to create a type of environment where NC State wasn't just an afterthought, where they were the thought in the triangle. And I am telling you, I know that I said before there was an Ozai's comment moment where NC State could be like the Fire Nation and boom, it's time for us to go. We can go take this thing over. I don't think people realize that window didn't close as soon as I thought it did. Duke just had every single player on its roster except like 3 scholarship guys transfer or leave. I thought the window was closed. It's still open to make NC State back as the premier brand or a premier brand in the state of North Carolina. It's still right in front of us, and MOC can have a massive part of that.
Yeah, I think it's well said because, no, his numbers will never probably register in the record books at State, but his impact is immeasurable, and he will forever be remembered for that shot he hit against UVA or the drive to the bucket where he got the and one against Oakland near the end of regulation, or the transition 3 against Duke to really build some momentum in the Elite Eight. All of those moments basically already forever immortalize Michael O'Connell at NC State. And if he were to lead us to another ACC title and another deep postseason run, then yeah, I'll be out there myself using my own 2 hands to build that statue, whatever it takes, because this guy is super important to this team. He's super important to this program, and he's super important to what we're trying to accomplish next season. So it's a thrill to get this confirmation that he will be back. He's wildly become a fan favorite because of that shot against UVA. We can't wait to see what he does this coming season. Coming up next, we're looking at potentially a finalized roster as we're nearly to 13 total scholarships after a quick word from our sponsors. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with your friends in timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. Prizes such as unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, and hilarious emojis for taunting friends after you smash their buildings and heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day. They have constantly changing tournaments and challenges, including unique mini games such as digging for treasure and a robot machine. There's always new timed events to help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench, download it now free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. Middle portion of our Thursday show. Kenton, I thought we should now take some time to look at a potential finalized roster, as I personally do believe that we are probably going to add our last piece here, I'd say within the next week. I think it is looming that close. And so we're going to take a look at the front court and the back court. We're going to give kind of our initial thoughts on the construction of this roster, what Keats went into the portal and accomplished, and just our overall feeling of how this team will look next year. First, we're going to start with the front court. So as you see, in time of recording here, 9:24 p.m., there's a couple names that could change by the time you even hear this. We're certainly hoping not before the midnight deadline on Wednesday. But as it stands at the time of recording, in our front court, we have Ben Middlebrooks, Brandon Huntley-Hatfield, Dontrez Styles, MJ Rice, asterisk, Dennis Parker Jr., and then Ezra Asar. Now, I included Asar because I am that confident that he will be donning the red and white this coming season. I think Kevin Keats is going to seal the deal here sooner than later, and I think he'll be a very important depth piece to this team. But Kenton, looking at the front court here, just give me your initial thoughts on production factor, maybe how you feel this will pan out, and potentially an overall grade.
If I was to give an overall grade, I'd say B, verging on B+, because this is a very versatile group that can do a lot of different things if you look at who they are up and down the roster, right? If you need a lineup where you're like, man, we're getting crushed on the boards, obviously Middlebrooks, Huntley-Hatfield are your guys to go to. If you're seeing a team where their bigs are just killing you in the paint and you're like, we need somebody to stretch the floor out. Well, thank God we got Dontrez Styles and Dennis Parker Jr. Obviously, if you're looking at a front court that is not as athletic, that cannot keep up with guys who can put the ball on the floor, then you'd be looking to play Ezra and MJ Rice more, because those two can do that at a higher level than I'd say most forwards in the country, as well as Dennis Parker Jr. to some extent. So there is a lot of different things that you can go with it. There's a lot of different ways that you can do this. Obviously, if you're looking at a defensive lineup, I would probably say, depending on who you're trying to defend, you would probably throw Asar and Huntley-Hatfield or Asar and Middlebrooks out there. But either way, you're looking at a situation where you have just a variety of ways that you can get it done, and guys who complement one another in terms of the front court and back court, which we'll get to in just a second with the back court. But I think this front court is uniquely fit to play with the back court that we have, because again, when you look at this list, I see 3 to 4 guys that if they're shooting a three, I'm not instantly saying, what under God's green earth are you doing out there, young man? So I think that this is a good group. Again, B, production-wise, I think they'll be very good rebounding. I think they'll be middling, maybe a little better defensively. I think scoring-wise, this group has a lot of potential.
So for me, I sit right now as a B+, and what jumps off the page with this group in particular is athleticism. I think we are superbly athletic in our front court. We've seen the motor that Ben Middlebrooks has. I really am excited about what Brandon Huntley-Hatfield brings to the mix. I think he can be an excellent player, not just in the post, but in the pick and roll as well. I think he can be an offensive weapon for us. Dontrez Styles will likely play the 4, but he's athletic enough that he can play some time at the 3. Looking forward to some superb perimeter shooting from Styles. I think another guy that's super athletic that can be aggressive on the boards as well. MJ Rice, again, time of recording, still an asterisk. I'm running this under the interpretation that he is coming back. And if we get MJ Rice at peak potential, he could be the absolute catalyst to this team, because we said the same thing about him last year. Incredible athlete, super physical, can get to the rim, can hit the outside shot, can do a lot of things at a high level. And if we do get that version of MJ Rice, who knows where this team could end up. But operating under the idea that he is back, he could see some time with the 3, more than likely the 4 because of his size and strength. Dennis Parker, I listed Dennis Parker as a forward here. I've heard that he could see some time as a 3 because of his versatility as well. But he's another guy. We saw a lot of potential in DPJ this year. I'm looking for a leap out of him this year. If he adds a little bit of meat on those bones, can be a bit more aggressive in the paint, pull down some more boards, maybe increase the shooting numbers, he can be a weapon. And then, of course, Ezra Asor here. Again, I am confident that he will land here in Raleigh. Maybe he doesn't, but I think if he does land on this team, he's another guy that could really add something special to the mix. And crazy athlete, talked about him yesterday. Insane motor on that guy. I expect him to be aggressive in the paint, get to the rim, shoot a lot of foul shots. I really like the basis of this front court. I think my only concerns would be potentially rebounding. I would need a lot of physicality out of this group because they're forfeiting maybe a little bit of size because you only have Middlebrooks and Huntley-Hatfield that are basically 6'10" and up. The rest of these guys are anywhere from 6'6" to 6'8"-ish. You would potentially struggle against superior length, but I think that's where the athleticism in this group would take over. And so not so much of a concern, but I am excited to see what they can do this coming year. Now we're going to flip over to the backcourt. Same thing, Kenton. Give me your initial reactions, how you think this group is constructed, and then an overall grade.
Wow. What a group. What a group here. Grade, I don't know how you go anything lower than, and I'm going to be a little harsh here. I want to say A-. And I know some people are going to say, oh, that's not harsh at all, but hear me out. This group is phenomenal. There is not a single thing that I look at this group as a whole and I say they are missing this. You want a playmaker? Michael O'Connell's your guy. You want a shooter? You got multiple guys here. Paul McNeil Jr. is allegedly like Baby T reincarnate. Obviously, Jaquavion Smith is still alive, so not really reincarnate, but just, like a newer version of him. You want a guy that can get to the Baja at a high level. You need a guy that can get you to the rim. Hey, Mike James, come on down, man. You know what he's going to do in terms of getting to the rim. Marcus Hill, how you doing, brother? Nice to see you. We know what he's going to do in terms of getting downhill. Oh, you need guys who can shoot at a high level? Again, Jaden Taylor is going to be there for you. And maybe call me crazy here. I think we're in for a big year from Breon Pass. There's something telling me that, because the way that I've heard from multiple transfers, and I promise you, these are firsthand accounts because I know that y'all think we may not do the work, but we do. And I've called around to the camps of multiple people who transferred out and all that. More often than not, guys who are transferring out of NC State basketball were specifically told, hey, there's not really a place for you here. Breon was never told that. Why? Why would that be the case if he has not played a ton yet? Think about that for a second. So, Trey Parker is another guy, smooth as butter, man. His game is just so smooth. He can do some scoring as well. So I think that this group is, again, phenomenal. You want scoring, you want length, you want playmaking, you want defending. They've got it all. The only thing that is keeping them from an A+ is, to me, in order to get an A or an A+, you need a true X factor guy who can do it all. I don't think that they have that, but I think they have guys who do their role very well.
I'm also sitting at an A- here for the backcourt, and we've talked a lot about a potential shift in offensive philosophy. In basically, we're now much more physical than we've been in years past, and you're more than likely going to see us shoot a lot more free throws than we have in years past. And so, I'm looking at guys like Marcus Hill, a newcomer. He averaged 20 points in the MAC. We'll see how that translates to the ACC, but even if he's giving you 13, 14 points, that's incredible. We're going to take that every single day of the week. Mike James coming over from Louisville, seasoned vet in the ACC, double-digit scorer for 2 seasons in the ACC. Very excited about his capabilities. Just talked about Michael O'Connell and the overall poise and control that he can have over this team. I think it'll be very interesting to see how he gels with everyone else here. Jaden Taylor, spoke about him earlier in the week and what he means to this team. I think he's going to take a little bit of a jump in shooting percentages. I think if he plays more into that 3-and-D role, you're going to see even more success for Jaden Taylor. Probably still the best defender on the team now that Casey Morsell is out of eligibility. So big year upcoming for Jaden Taylor. You mentioned Breon Pass. I love that he has made the decision to stay. Talked about the culture that's been so important to try and establish here under Kevin Keatts. Breon Pass is the epitome of that culture. When you have a guy here that's been through some of the lows and then the highest high that we've seen in 32 years, that matters to retain him on this team. And being a part of that culture, you can't emphasize how important that is. So I love that Breon Pass is still here. And then you have the 2 freshmen at the bottom, Paul McNeil Jr. and Trey Parker. Like Kenton mentioned, we've heard a lot about Paul McNeil, and he could potentially come in and make an impact right away on the offensive end. We'll see how that goes. I think, creating monstrous expectations of a freshman can get a little bit dicey, but I've heard that he's ready. I've heard that he's coming in a very polished product from the high school ranks. This past fall, it seemed like he was putting up 50-plus points a game because every time you see his name on Twitter, he's going off for some ridiculous number. If we can get close to double-digit numbers from him, that would be a massive, massive piece to this. And even if he turns out to be the career perimeter shooter, that could be a very important function of this team. That kind of leads me into my main concern, and I've seen a lot of people say this as well. It is the perimeter shooting. I think Mike James could be the guy. I think McNeil could be the guy. We talked about Styles in the front court. He could be the guy. You're still going to need a supplemental amount of perimeter shooting, despite being a lot more physical and getting into the paint more. But that's probably my main concern. I'm very interested to see how this group gels together. Some new faces coming from a lot of new places, and Michael O'Connell will more than likely be the quarterback of that bunch. So I'm sitting at an A- as of now, but a lot to be excited about in this backcourt.
Yeah, for sure. I absolutely agree with you there, and I think that we're primed for we're primed for something special out of this group. Again, if we can get that perimeter score and get a high level out of them, or if our front court can help stretch the court enough to clear up those lanes for these guys who get down with it.
Coming up next, we're talking about ACC Championship odds for NC State football. Too high, too low, or right where they should be? After a quick word from our sponsors. Last couple of minutes of our Thursday show, now getting into some ACC Championship odds for NC State football. These all come from FanDuel as it stands on May 2nd. NC State has the 5th best odds to not just make it to Charlotte, but win the ACC title. They're sitting at plus 900. Kenton, your thoughts?
I think that there's a ton of value there. This team, I want to let y'all know something. Clemson and Florida State are tied for the best odds. Behind those 2 teams, it's Miami. Behind Miami, it's Louisville. These are some ripe for the picking odds because, again, the same way that I talk about basketball having that Ozai comment moment, football is having that right now. Every single team ahead of you has massive questions. Florida State, how good is DJU? Can you win it all without a quarterback and a wide receiver core that can truly get it done? You're left asking that question. And then you talk about Clemson. I kid you not, Cade Klubnik is one of the worst decision makers I have ever seen on the college football level. With all due respect, I think that they're a team that are always going to be talented. Phil Mouth is a load. A 230-pound back is no joke. No joke. But with that being said, if you are looking at Clemson in its totality, what do you say of a quarterback that you can't trust to make good decisions and a secondary that lost a first-team all-conference guy, Makuba, first-team all-conference guy, Wiggins, who was a first-round pick? What happens? Do they have young guys ready to go right away there? And then you talk about Louisville. Tyler Shuck is awful. I don't believe in him at all. I don't believe in him at all. And Miami, they always have the talent. There has never been a moment where the Canes didn't have the talent, right? It's all about the youth. They win the national championship every year in the offseason. Then there's a thing that happens. They got the most first rounders every year. And then there's a thing that happens. They put that ball down. It gets kicked off. Now it's time to play some real football. All of a sudden, Miami folds under the lights every single time. So this is a year. If there is one for NC State to come in and do it, this is it. This is it.
I was surprised to see Clemson tied for first in odds here. I don't know if Clemson will be that much different than they were last year, and they had plenty of struggles last year. You talk about the production they're losing on both sides of the ball, and of course, Dabo is not one that is a believer in the transfer portal. We're going to have to see what they have coming behind all these NFL draft talents, but I don't know, man. I don't know how you arrive at Clemson that high at plus 280, and even Florida State as well. You touched on that. I am extremely unimpressed with DJU, and I have been for 4 years now. Yeah. I think he came in with that pedigree at Clemson and just never really reached that potential that they all thought he would. Goes across the country to Oregon State. He had a decent year. Transfers back into the ACC, and I still have basically the same expectations of him. I think he's another guy, not a great decision maker, not very good at execution, all that much either. We all know the amount of production that Florida State lost off of their undefeated team as well. And Mike Norvell, he's really built something down there in Tallahassee, but much of the same. I was surprised to see them. I was surprised to see both Clemson and Florida State as low as they are. Miami, not much to say about Miami. They're just getting the love because of the name. Louisville, same kind of deal. I think they have to replace a lot. And then when you get down to NC State with the fifth best odds, if you're of the betting spirit, you probably love these odds because, with the team we've assembled and the aspirations they have, you might win some money off of this thing if they do end up pulling it off. But when you look at the entire list of ACC odds, it's these top 5 schools, and then it's kind of everyone else. Virginia Tech odds are double ours. They're plus 1,800. So they're really looking at just 5 schools that could potentially get it done. And if you're looking at the most complete team, I think you're looking at NC State.
I agree. And again, I love Aston Gelati. And all the teams I talked about their flaws, there are moments of strength or areas of strength in all of them. But the reality is, I don't believe in any of these teams that they're head and shoulders above NC State. I just don't.
That'll do it for us here on Thursday. As always, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button, drop your comments in the comment box. Tell us what you think about Michael O'Connell officially returning to NC State. Tell us what you think about the potential finalized roster, assuming that both MJ Rice and Ezra Asor are in the red and white next year. And then tell us what you think about NC State's ACC Championship odds at plus 900. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you have not already, and we will see you all tomorrow. But until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.